first cut on the M&M earnings, I'm joined by my colleague Puneet. Puneet, numbers seem to be broadly in line or a tad above estimates. How's it looking at this stage?
So definitely compared to the previous year, it is of course has grown substantially. But Bloomberg estimates are roughly 28,000 odd crores for standalone revenues. It's reported slightly below that number. Profitability also compared to the last year has been slightly lower. But do note there was a one-time gain in the previous year for the same time. And if you exclude that particular gain, it's on a standalone basis. The company has performed very well as well. The other part to look at for is definitely the margins flashing on your screen. Very, very positive margins coming in this particular quarter. The Bloomberg estimate was roughly around 13.7%. So that's coming in at roughly 15.2% is a very big positivity on that front as well. Even in this particular quarter, we saw the launch of the 3XO, which has been one of the most positive launches for Mahindra and Mahindra. They have said that they will be, they already had 50,000 bookings for the particular product in the first hour itself, which was launched back in May of 2024. And post that, they've done some price revisions as well for the top variant of the XUV 700. That's also been one of the things that has been notable by the street as well. So we've seen competition also decreasing prices, and they have matched the same as well. Another thing to look at will be the inventory figures as well. We have seen, the inventory has been slightly higher for the passenger vehicle industry as a whole, and most of the PV makers, including Maruti and Tata Motors, have reduced prices. But overall, when we look at the results per se, revenue slightly below estimates. When you look at Bloomberg numbers, essentially, if you remove the one-time gain which was there in the previous year, profitability is a beat. But including that, of course, the Bloomberg estimate had estimated for this particular quarter to come at roughly 2,800 odd crores, but it's coming at roughly 2,600 odd crores. We have, a guest also joining in at this particular time. We'll let him just, quiz him on the particular results as well, and invite him in this particular time as for Mahindra and Mahindra specifically, sir. How are you seeing the particular results for this particular
Puneet.
quarter?
So, like you've mentioned, we're joined by Mayuresh Joshi, Head of Research at MarketSmith India. And before we can quickly go back to Puneet, let's quickly get a view from Mayuresh on what he's been making of the numbers that are trickling in. Mayuresh, thank you so much for taking time out. What's your first impression of the numbers looking like?
Very good afternoon. Standalone basis, I think top line a tad bit below market expectations. But largely, if you look at how the automotive segment has performed and the expectations in terms of whether we have seen any kind of price cut, specifically in the higher end SUV segment, is something to be seen from the management commentary. The second aspect, obviously, is in terms of improving their supply chain, is the management's work about in terms of their order backlog. What is the achievable benchmarks that they probably reached on that number? And how do they see competition probably shaping up when it comes to the pricing environment? I think these three aspects are something to be seen. But overall, if you probably look at numbers, specifically on the operating front, they are better than what a lot of people on the street had estimated. So operating efficiencies have definitely played their part for M&M. Bottom line, as your colleague mentioned, last time it had one-off, particularly if you adjust for that. I think even that number is relatively better or at par at what the street has expected. So decent set of numbers in my opinion. If the management is able to clarify on these issues with the street probably believes in, the street might then look at the numbers and probably the earnings estimates can be adjusted for the next couple of months.
Thanks so much for joining us. Just one question on margins. Now, we've seen a very strong margins coming at roughly 15.2%. Now, this was much higher than, what Bloomberg estimates also had at roughly 13.7%. Just wanted to get your view on this once, because we're seeing that other automakers like Maruti also expect to report results today as well. Is going to be around 13 to 14% range, but this particular number is very strong for Mahindra and Mahindra. Just wanted to get your views on that once.
No, so as I said, exceptionally better margins that the company has posted this time around. And a large part of the expectations, if you can put it forth, is also in terms of a lot of rationalization of costs, which they have managed at their end. So to a certain extent, cost efficiencies is something that have definitely played their part. as far as the margin outlook and the margin performance is concerned. But again, I think it will be interesting to note on the sustainability of these margins going forward and the management data.
Mayur, just another question on competition. Now we've seen that both Mahindra and Mahindra as well as Tata Motors has given a lot of forward guidance over the launches over the next few years by 2030 as well. We've seen that now we're going to get a Curve EV also from Tata Motors come in. What kind of reaction do you think will that be coming in from Mahindra and Mahindra? Do you see that they will be launching a lot more in this particular year as well, and specifically on SUVs? Of course, they are the market leaders there. How do you see them compete with Tata Motors, especially on the EV front? Because you've seen 70% market share for Tata Motors. How are you seeing the EV transition from Mahindra and Mahindra in this particular year?
Also, the launches will keep on coming through, and it's not just for Mahindra and Mahindra. I think a lot of other players will launch their EVs as well. So to that extent, the EV mobility platform and the EV launches is going to be very, very competitive over the next few quarters. Having said that, on the investor day, on what Mahindra had envisaged over the next few years, and in terms of their product development and pipeline as well, on the EV portfolio, the hybrid portfolio, if I'm not mistaken, if there is some development on that front as well. But if you go to their core business model and their core portfolio envisagement that they put out, I think they've got a solid product pipeline for the next few quarters as well. And therefore, I think, along with their competitors, I think the space looks very, very interesting as consumption patterns evolve and as the expectations in terms of the EV infrastructure getting developed as well. There is sufficient scope for a lot of these automakers to actually have a significant growth as far as their EV mobility business is concerned, as well as their core portfolio pipeline that they would be developing. So I think it's interesting time for automakers.
All right, thanks a lot for joining in, Mayuresh, and we'll of course be watching out for the management commentary and forward guidance given by them over the course of the day. But thank you for joining in.